Welcome to another episode of Team Upside Talks. Today we are blessed to have Hafsa on the podcast. Me and Hafsa, we grew up on the same estate in West London. And as soon as she heard about Team Upside, she reached out to me straight away and she immediately began to play a really crucial role on the team. To give a brief overview of Hafsa, she is an undergraduate student at UCL studying history and the philosophy of science, and she is our creative and very hardworking secretary at Team Upside. As secretary, Hafsa has drafted and edited over 14 newsletters for Team Upside, and we wouldn't be the same without her. So this podcast is all about listening to and learning from other people's journey through education. So without further ado, question number one is, Hafsa, how would you describe the kind of secondary school you went to?
Okay, thank you for having me on. So the kind of secondary school I went to, I describe it as a state school, comprehensive, not grammar, of course, not private school. In terms of like the way the school was set up, I'd say comparing it to pretty much a lot of state schools, it was like underfunded. We always had like a cover teacher for languages, sciences, but nonetheless, like I met some amazing people there, and I did enjoy my time there.
All right, cool. So question number two, how did your attitude towards education change during your time in school?
So my attitude towards education changed in year 10. Before that, I describe myself as like how everyone else was like just silly, just taking life as it comes, just living, like going to school just to meet friends, not going to school to learn. And then in year 10, everything pretty much changed. My sister kind of guided me. So even her, she was on her own journey in education, and she'd come across I think she went to like a career day, I can't remember what it was, and she'd come back that day just telling me about all the career opportunities that are out there. And like she'd realized that the key to kind of success, as cheesy as it sounds, really does start from GCSEs and year 10, and like thinking about what you want to do for your future. So she'd ask me, I never forget this day actually, she asked me, I think it was near the end of year 9, she asked me, what subjects do you enjoy? And I said, oh, I like debating, I like English, I like history. And she said, well, that works well with the career of a lawyer. And I'd always like heard about being a lawyer before, and then from that day onwards I'd taken it seriously. And then from year 10, I changed my whole attitude to education. Changed, I kind of cut off the same friends that I had, and I decided, okay, if I want to get to that goal of being a lawyer, then I need to work on fixing up my attitude now.
Mm-hmm. So it seems like year 10 was a clear juncture in terms of on your journey. What about when you went into sixth form and when you went into year 12 and year 13? Did things change even more, or
Yeah.
was it very similar?
Even more, I'd say it was a bit of a jump. So in year 10 and year 11, I started thinking about it, started thinking about being serious and focusing on my education, and realizing, okay, I need to get these GCSEs. And then I started thinking about sixth forms, and I realized I didn't want to stay in my area. I wanted to kind of meet new people. As I mentioned before, like there was only one ethnic group in my area, so I wanted to just meet a diverse range of people. So I looked into sixth forms like Anna Wilkinson, William Morris, Hammersmith, quite a few sixth forms, and then I settled on William Morris. William Morris in itself, I had a few positive and negative experiences at that sixth form, but the real change for me was the people I'd met in my politics class, and then also my politics teacher. And then even between high school and sixth form, it was really different. So I'd gone into year 12 thinking, I want to get these grades, I want to go to like the top 5 universities. But then just being in a different environment, especially at William Morris, where there's no strict timetable. You just go in when your lesson starts, so you don't have to go in for form in the morning, and you don't have to stay until like 3 p.m. or 4 p.m. in the afternoon, as most schools. So that jump and that freedom, it kind of put me off track. And then it was the year 12, like going into year 12 summer, when you start to think about personal statements, what you want to put on your personal statements, that I realized I'd made a waste of year 12 pretty much. But then like I still had it at the back of my mind to, the dream of being a lawyer. So I applied to all the opportunities that are available when you're in year 12. So like the Sutton Trust summer schools, a work experience at like a firm, a commercial law firm, and like luckily I got into both. So for me that summer was a game changer, really.
Okay, wow. So before we go into your like specific experiences in sixth form, let's touch on your teachers and the kind of the role of mentors, because you mentioned your sister and you also mentioned your politics teacher
Mhm,
already. So my
mhm.
question for you is, who were some of the mentors and teachers in your life that helped you along the way, and what made them so valuable to you?
So yeah, of course, my sister, my mom and my dad are definitely mentors for me, and they will be mentors for me like from the day I'm born until the day I die. But my sister's been a mentor for me in terms of like my educational development and my own personal development. That's because I think without her guidance, I don't think I'd be where I am today. So having that conversation, and just not that conversation, so many conversations throughout my education, and even now while I'm trying to get into this career. For example, the first one of what do you want to be, and this is what you can do to get there. And then in year 12 as well, there was another conversation that I think I never forget. I'd gotten to like the summer work experience at that law firm, and they had like a bursary scheme. And before that, I never think I'd be someone that can apply to schemes where like you're one that's chosen out of like 60 individuals. I was never someone who applied to these kind of things because I didn't think I'd get it. So I came back that day saying to her, "Oh, I don't think I can get onto this scheme." And she said, "Why is that? Like you need to understand that you're the person hindering your own growth and your own development. If you just believe in yourself, it can be possible." And I know it sounds so cheesy, but if you don't have that conversation with someone, like it's very rare that you will believe in yourself. So after that day, I thought, yeah, you know what? Why am I saying I don't think I can get it? So I applied to this bursary scheme, and it was also like a mentorship program. And even though I didn't get it, I did get to the interview stage. So I think they narrowed it down to like 5 people out of 60. So for
Mhm.
me, like that was definitely growth because I didn't even think I could get past like interviewing or get to the interview stage. And you asked for like other mentors as well, isn't it?
Yeah, if there are any other mentors that
Yeah.
are worth mentioning, yeah.
Um, so my politics teacher, his name's Peter. If he ever comes across this, I think he would. I bet he would. He loves education. He's a big. I think not just me, everyone in my politics class, because I think it was again that belief in us and just the things he taught us. And like so I studied politics, history, and sociology, and in year 12, that's when I started learning about being working class, being disadvantaged. So that's when like I'd say my political conscience was starting to develop,
Mhm.
and like he would kind of feed that for us. Like he would tell us about everything that's going on in the world, but he will also like admire us, like coming from the backgrounds that we come from, and being so like politically motivated, being so inspiring. And yeah, I'd say that's one of the reasons why he's a role model.
That's really interesting. Your politics teacher sounds like a really nice, it sounds like someone I'd
Yeah.
like to meet. All right, cool. So you mentioned like making it to that final round of the interview and how much of an achievement that was for you because you didn't even kind of have much expectations going into it. Were
Mhm.
there any other kind of successes or achievements during your time at school that you were really proud about achieving?
Like I said earlier, year 12 was like a game changer for me because that's when I started applying to things. I didn't think I could get in, but I did get in. So I did like a summer school at King's on like politics, philosophy, and law. And then that same summer, I did like a work experience at Ann Overy. So just getting onto that was really big for me. But I do have another example. Um, After year 12 is obviously year 13 when you're applying to all these universities, and although I'm applying, and although I had that summer of like starting to believe in myself, it still wasn't 100%. So my options were LSE, King's, Warwick, SOAS, and City. And I only put on LSE because I just thought, why not? I didn't put it on because I think I could get it. I just thought, why not? But I did get the offer. So for me, that was a big game changer and kind of like an achievement that I'm proud of.
Before I go on to my next question, I'm just really like interested to know your thoughts on this. Like the first time you stepped into a law firm like Allen and Overy, like a really prestigious elite institution, like do you remember what the experience was like to kind of go from Southall to, you know what I mean, A and O?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
what was the experience like for you?
Yeah, I don't forget it. So it actually started in year 10 when I started to think about different like career options. I applied to the SEO scholars thing. I don't know if you've heard of it. So it's for students in secondary, and like they help students like look into these different kind of careers, kind of where it is for us right now. So they had, it was two instances actually. So they had a open day at Oxford and an open day at Freshfields, which is another big law firm. And like both experiences, I just felt so out of place. This is a funny example I'm going to give. So at Freshfields, I dressed up. It was the first time I dressed up smart. I was wearing like a smart skirt and everything, and my tights actually ripped like on the bottom of my knee. And I was just walking around this big fancy law firm trying to not show like the little hole in my tights. And for me, and like even the other students on the scheme with me, they, although they were like from different ethnic groups, they were still well dressed, well put, and they spoke well. So that plus just feeling so out of place, being the only person wearing a scarf. Then I know like the legal career has changed a lot right now, the legal profession, and it is much more diverse. But this is 5 years ago when I was in year 10, and yeah, I really did feel out of place.
Yeah, I feel like it's really like powerful and important for you to share stories like that, because I mean I'm very confident that you're one of many people that have experienced similar levels of feeling out of place. It's something
Mm-hmm.
that's, yeah, it's definitely felt by a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so moving on, you mentioned some of the successes of your kind of educational journey thus far.
Mm-hmm.
What I feel like is really important to talk about is some of your failures, because going to UCL, going to like one of the best universities in the world, it can be very easy for someone to look at you and to think that you had, I mean, that you kind of were successful throughout your educational journey. Are there any stories of failure that you are happy to share with people that are listening?
Yeah, of course. So just whoever is listening, so far they've probably heard me speak about these big commercial law firms and applying to LSE and going to an Oxford Open Day. But actually, after that year of year 13, I didn't get the grace to get into LSE. And for me, like after already not believing in myself, then getting that belief in myself, and then letting myself down, not getting the grades, and people that were in the same class as me, they just about scraped it and got into their university. So I thought maybe I'm the problem. So for me, that was a severe failure to begin with. But the year in itself was such a personal development kind of year for me. So the person that I was in at the end of year 13 and the person that I am now is completely different. And the way that I take on failures is completely different. So yeah, not getting the grades and just feeling so down. My mom telling me just go to any university. Like a lot of people from our cultures will know that our parents just think go to uni, you'll be all right. And me just trying to explain to my mom, no, like the uni I go to matters, because the career I'm trying to go to, they care about the university you kind of go to. So I had to make the decision to retake my A levels. And not once did I think going into year 12 or year 13 that I'd be the person retaking their A levels. So like I first kind of felt crap and like just looked at myself like, oh my days, you're such a failure. So I had to overcome two things, like belief in myself and also realizing that failure can come to anyone. Like we're not protected by anything, like anything can happen. And then I also had to kind of use my faith to look at the positives of this failure. So that year I went on a little weight loss journey, and then also just like the way I'd studied completely changed. I learned about active recall and spaced repetition and so much stuff. So yeah, that was definitely such a personal development year for me. And it was that summer that I heard about Team Upside. So I don't think I would have gotten involved in Team Upside if I didn't take that year out. So it was definitely great for me. And I also got my first long-term job from that year. So yeah, it was an amazing year looking back at it. But the beginning of the year wasn't so great.
Yeah, that's a really beautiful kind of story, because in times of, you mean, at the beginning you never would have expected such achievements and such kind of blessings to come from that period. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. So another question I had, which kind of links to the way you were taught and kind of the teachers that you had at school, if you could go back and change one thing about the way you were taught or what you were taught at school, what would it be?
Okay, so the theme kind of like that I would say from this podcast session is just like belief in yourself. So when I think about that, I think like, why didn't my teachers believe in me? Why didn't my teachers tell me, oh, Hafsa, you can do it. Hafsa, you can get that A, you can get that A star. So one thing that I'd really change, and if I was to ever go into education, is just instilling that belief in students, like showing them that you believe in them, because then once they see someone else believes in them, they will kind of act upon it and will try and meet expectations and then start to believe in themselves. And then just like practical ways, it's just like the teaching. Like after taking that year out, I realized that we don't need to sit in a classroom and just regurgitate content. I'd say the way like teachers should teach, well, I'm not trying to tell them how to teach, but I would say one thing that should really be implemented is this idea of like active recall. And I guess from primary school we do get that, we get like regular tests on like maths, English and science, but the schools I went to, we rarely ever had regular tests. We'll have like one big mock at the end of the year, and it's like at that point, who's really remembering what they'd studied in September, in July? So, but I think it does depend on the school as well, because I do know a lot of schools do constant testing throughout the year, which shows that it does work.
Mhm. So you mentioned active recall, you mentioned spaced repetition, and they both tie in really nicely to my next question. So like with hindsight, what advice do you have for people like in year 11 and in year 13 about to take their GCSE and A-level exams? Like what did you do that worked for you, and what do you wish you had done to kind of prepare for those exams?
So my GCSEs, they went all right, and what did I do? I think the GCSEs and A levels are very different. What really worked for me at GCSEs was working in groups. For example, my history was my favorite subject, and the morning before our exam, we all came together with our revision notes and we had flashcards. And literally, I think for 4 hours, we kept going through these flashcards, kept testing each other. So working in groups really worked well for me. But then again, that was 4 years ago, and I know that GCSEs are technically much harder now. So I'd give the same advice I'd give for an A-level student to GCSE students, which really is that active recall and spaced repetition. And the way to implement that is you spend, let's say, the first 4 months of by the way, this is just my advice, and I don't think anyone should take it as like concrete, but I'd say the first 4 months of like that year, just learning the content. And then while you learn, just making your revision notes and then testing yourselves. But I'd say after the first 4 to 5 months, which is when like teaching should really finish in year 13, is just constant testing and no more wasting time on content. And one thing that I just wasted time on in year 13 is I literally typed up the whole textbook for history. And I thought, oh, typing up these notes, it was so stupid, like it was so foolish, like typing up these notes, that will somehow help me get the grades. And I didn't even use my logic, like once I type up these notes, what's going to happen with them? And I was sitting there in exam season in year 13 with a bunch of notes that I couldn't do anything with, and I just started scrambling trying to make mind maps, and it didn't really work. So one thing I'd really do different is finish learning content early. I know this depends on like how teachers teach and how quickly they finish, but yeah, finish content early and then make your resources, which could be flashcards, mind maps for essay subjects, which is what I did. Mind maps for every essay question. That worked amazing for me in the second time around when I retook. For literally every past question that I could find, I'd made a mind map for it, and then you'd see the pattern that questions are similar. They're questioning you on the same topic, so how different can it be? And then yeah, so like flashcards, mind maps, and quizzes, and then like raw testing. So spending an hour timing yourself, or how long the test is, writing it under time conditions, and then yeah, that's the main advice.
That is some solid advice right there. I hope everyone's, you know what I mean, got their notepad and pen out.
Need to implement it now while at university.
Exactly, mate. I needed that advice more than anyone. So moving on, let's move past A levels. Let's briefly talk about university. So you, from year 10, it seems that you kind of knew that you wanted to be a lawyer. It, like on paper, it seems that wouldn't it have made sense for you to study law? Like me and you both know that you don't need to study law to become a lawyer. So kind of my question for you is, why did you end up choosing history and philosophy? And do you have any advice for year 12 and year 13 students about picking courses at uni?
Yeah. So I'll be like completely honest with this one. I still really did want to study law in yet when I retook the second time around. And I applied again this time to UCL, LSE, King's, like the main universities in London that are do well in law. And I did get into Warwick actually, which is not in London, to do law, but I didn't get into UCL. So I was fine. I was actually happy with it. I was like, you know what, Warwick is still really good. Like the career prospects are really good. But the idea of moving out wasn't so settling with me. Like I wasn't really keen on it, but I was fine with doing it. And I thought, you know what, it's going to be an experience, so I'll be cool with it. And so on results day, I'll kind of paint the picture. My mom was on holiday, so she wasn't with me, but she was calling me like all morning. And so I woke up really early. My sixth form was in Hammersmith. I don't mind saying the name now because I'm not there anymore. So it's William Morris sixth form. So it's kind of a trek from Southall. So I woke up super early, checked track, and I thought, okay, I've got into work. I'm happy and I'm fine with it. This is what I wanted. So I go there. I really wanted like much better results than I got, but I was still happy with them. And like I'm leaving school, I see my results, I'm going to work, I'm cool with it. And like me and my friend thought, okay, like William Morris is near Westfield, so we're going to Westfield. We're like, let's just take the day out, let's just relax and enjoy the day. And then I saw a voice note from my mom, and she's like, oh, I'm so worried, I want to know like what you got, did you get into the university you wanted to get into? And I just hear the voice note, and she's like, I'm not going to go and enjoy my day until I hear like what's going on. Did you try and get into a university in London? Because she knew I really wanted that. And then when I heard that voice note, I thought, okay, let me at least try and let's see what is out there. I know adjustment is a thing, so let me try it. So I tried Queen Mary, I tried King's, I tried UCL, and I didn't even ever think of that I would go to UCL. Like, although I applied to it the second time around, it was never really like my main option. It wasn't really a university that I had high hopes for. I was just like, it's a good university, but I don't know if I'd like enjoy it there. So this really nice girl on the line, she said, so she gave me like the options that were available on adjustment, and it was like history and philosophy of science, and then a different course which is similar to humanities, but I didn't find it that interesting. So I thought I did history, politics and sociology. I looked at the modules, and it looked like it was more of a it's like the humanities behind science. And then I saw things like Plato, Aristotle. I thought, okay, this is going to be really cool and interesting. So then I called them up, and this lady was really nice. She filled out a form for me, and she said, we'll let you know if you get on. And then after me and my friend had enjoyed the day, I get a call from UCL, and they're like, we're happy to give you like a space in this course. And even though I was happy, I still wasn't sure yet. So guess who I call? I call my sister, the same person who was like giving me advice all over the years. And I said, okay, like I can go work, do law, still get into commercial law, or I could go UCL, which is like well-known, really good university, and I can stay in London. I don't have to move out, but it just means I'm not studying law. I should go to take UCL. And another thing is that like UCL Somali Society is quite big. So I thought, okay, if I can be like around like a community that I know well, work, like I haven't heard great things about it, even though I know it's a good university, but in terms of like the social life, I've heard isn't that great, especially for someone who's like Muslim, Black, female. I just thought, okay, this is UCL, and I've always seen such great things of like what students do there, especially those from like my kind of background. So I thought, you know what, let me just do it. But I don't think if it wasn't for that push from my sister, I would still just be like clueless. I don't know, what shall I do? So yeah, that's why I'm here now at UCL, at home actually, but that's why I'm at UCL studying this course. And you know what, I will give even more, like a bit more information that I think might be a bit too much, but I don't mind sharing it because hopefully someone might find it useful. So I'm doing this course and I enjoy it, and I'm like getting so much exposure to commercial law, and I'm going to like so many different career open days like over the past year, and I'm like, okay, this is cool, I like it, but like law is still at the back of my mind. So I'm like, if I can study law, like, you know, that might be like, that was my goal and dream for 5 years. Do I really want to give up now? So I made the decision to apply again, and I thought the only way I'm going to change course and do law again is if it's like UCL, LSE or King's, only because that's where I am now. So I thought I might as well just stay like in the same kind of like area, like is London. But I didn't get in. Like this is the third time round. I thought if this is the third time round that I don't get in, like before I applied and sent it off, I thought I just have to try one more time, and if it doesn't work this time around, then it's just like, it's literally meant to be. I can't fight it anymore. So yeah, this is just for anyone who like they've got a goal, they've got a dream. I say don't ever give up on that dream, because you never know, and like not giving up on it also will show you like your answer, because you're also going to say what if. So yeah, that's the answer.
Wow, man, that was a very powerful. That was like very moving. You know what I mean? That's like it's like a whole story of perseverance and just
Yeah.
like not giving up, like you said. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I think yeah, I'm very sure a lot of people are going to benefit from that. So let's kind of finish off on the big question, the final question. After a really lovely conversation. So question number 10, Hafsa. What does education mean to you?
Okay. So I'll give you a African proverb. This African proverb, it says if you educate a man, you educate an individual, but if you educate a woman, you educate a nation. So for me, education, like as cheesy as it is the education to success. I mean, it's the key to success, but also it educates people. Like you being educated, you're now going to educate someone else and teach them something they don't know, even on a small scale. For example, like I know right now it's a very like stressing time for a lot of people, and we have the Black Lives Matter situation that's going on, and a lot of people didn't know what white privilege was. A lot of people didn't know what the Black Lives Matter really meant. So if it wasn't for that education going around on like Instagram and Twitter, and people just giving like answers to concepts, then like no one would really know. So that's why for me, education is not only the key to success, it's like the key to success for a whole nation, and like the whole of mankind, as cheesy as it sounds.